Hi guys. So Murphy hit and Murphy hit bad. It's probably been my worst week since I moved in October. So that's like 10 months. And it started off on the Sunday and today is Thursday. And God, where do I begin? So these things come in threes, that's the saying, and in the UK we call Murphy Sod's Law. I refer to it as Murphy because that is what other YouTubers say. You know, Murphy has crawled into your home, Murphy's trying to get into your life, and that stuck. I pick either one, both are bad. My car on Sunday, I noticed I was driving back from my parents and I was about 5-6 minutes down the road doing 50 miles an hour on quite a fast road, and my car, albeit she was old, she was a silver 2004 Corsa with a 1 litre engine that was very loud and very cranky, but just ran. And the things that kind of stayed the same with her were things like I knew how much my fuel was going to cost. I knew that she would always shout at me every time I tried to push into 60 or 70 miles an hour where permitted. And that the temperature would always stay the same, which was safe. So I was 6 minutes down the road and the temperature had shot up into the red. I immediately pulled over into a safe place and I rang my dad. And he came out and he had a look and he said, "Your water coolant's run out. You know, you've not checked your water coolant. I've got some water, we'll top it up." And at that point everything looked fine. But he said, "What we'll do is I'll follow you down the road to a certain point," which was about another 20-25 minutes away. "If things stay the same, we'll pull over into this one lay-by a certain way and we'll check again. But if you go into the red in your temperature, pull over as soon as you can into a safe place and we'll see what we can do." And that happened. I went into the red about 20 minutes down the road. The temperature didn't stay that, it did slowly increase, and we checked again and the water coolant that Dad had just topped up had all gone. And he then looked again and saw that there was a bit more steam coming out the engine this time. There wasn't that first time. He then saw that the little hose that connects the water coolant to the engine, the seal on that model wasn't a metal one, so it had broken. And that wasn't a repair it at the roadside type fix it job. So we called the AA. It was obviously a Sunday evening. Dad waited with me. We made plans. I was on my way back up to Norwich from Cambridgeshire because I had work, and it was 5:30, 6 o'clock-ish on a Sunday evening. So it went into emergency hours for the AA, and it took a guy about an hour to turn up, which was fine because it was just a local guy. By that point we'd agreed that my sister, who was also visiting and has her own car, would drive me and my stuff back up to Norwich, and the guy would tow the car back to my parents. There is a guy in their village who's always looked at my car. He knows its history. I also knew that if it were to go to a garage anywhere else, it would cost me a fortune to get out because all the little like nooks and crannies and things that, you know, the car complains about, they would charge me for. Now, it's worth bearing in mind that about a month ago, in July, I had my big hiking expedition in Derbyshire and my big assessment thing that I do yearly. This is something the car does yearly, and this year I just felt that the car wouldn't be able to do that again, that I realistically had a year left on my car, and the plan was, I'd just done a budget summit, but the plan was to save intensely for a car, save about £3,000, whilst trying to pay off my parents as well, which is £1,500 that I owe them, and get myself a new car just before the trip. Spend about £3,000, do an upgrade, get a larger engine, larger car, not too large, and do that. The car didn't give me a year. By the time my sister and I got back up to Norwich, it was extremely late. I'd had like a food shop in my car from where I'd gone food shopping. I needed to make the bed up. I think we both maybe got 4 or 5 hours sleep, and then I rolled into work to catch public transport every single day this week. And I don't have a problem with public transport. The problem is that I budget £40 a week, which is a full tank, in that car, and that lasts me, but it's cost me £10 a day. So in 4 days I've done that budget, and I was panicking and thinking, you know, I have £160 a month for fuel. Often that's more than enough. At this point, if they can't fix the car, I can only get to work for 16 days. I work more than 16 days a month. So I kind of went into work. I was absolutely knackered. I was trying to sort out getting hold of the mechanic to collect my car. It was just, when I travel back up on Sundays, I like to give myself a good amount of time to get myself prepped and sorted and ready for work, and I started off on the back foot, which didn't help. And I eventually got hold of the mechanic, who, as soon as I answered the phone to him, he goes, "You've probably wrecked your car. That the pipe is maybe a £10 part plus the labour." However, there is an outstanding balance owed to him. It is worth bearing in mind he takes about 9 months to invoice, and it's not a problem. The difficulty is we don't know what that is. He tends to invoice his regular people maybe once a year with all the jobs. So not great to budget for, but I'd hope by the time he invoiced that there would be some things set aside. So he said, obviously you've got that. He said, however, if you were running hot for too long, he said, and you started to warp the engine, the gasket, the head gasket, he said, that is more than the value of your car. You need to start making other arrangements. Speak to your mum and dad, and obviously he knows mum and dad. He knows all the family cars. And my car was only maybe worth £300. I took breakdown cover on it out 2 months ago. My insurance is up for renewal at day of filming today in 9 days. I'd already paid a month, with a month to pay on that insurance as well, 7 days before it renews, to add to complexity. My car tax had just renewed. I didn't have any savings. I don't have money for a car. So I rang and spoke to mum and dad, who I already owe £1,500 to. And they said, we'll see what he says. At the weekend, I had been speaking to mum about the fact that I had no savings and I needed a car, and I was worried that my car wouldn't last, and that I was trying to save intensely. And she had said then that, you know, if your car just goes, brake ignition, if your car just goes, you know, we'll get you a cheap runaround and, you know, just pay us back. And I didn't want that at all. I view my parents as a debt because I owe them money, and I do, and it's a lot of money. They don't like it being referred to as a debt, but I have to think of it as such, or there will not be the incentive there to pay them back. And so the mechanic, so I was panicking all of Monday. The mechanic rings me on Tuesday and goes, the good news is your engine survived. The bad news is your MOT is due in 6 weeks and the car will not survive its MOT. In the UK, you need an MOT to run your car. Your car has to pass. You can have advisories and you can have major fails. If there are any major fails on there, you cannot drive the car until A, those failures are fixed, or B, you just replace the car. And there were 3 major fails that were going to be more than the value of the car, plus the outstanding balance, plus any future work to do. By that point, we're talking new car money. And new car money in my terms is, you know, £1,000 to get you a runaround. And he said, you need to speak to your mum and dad. I recommend anything Japanese or Korean. They're really, really reliable, blah, blah, blah. All you need to do if they stop running is probably put a new battery in them. Anyway, the little local car garage that sells cars happens to have one. Get your parents to go down and have a look. So in the meantime, this is all happening. I'm in work. It's our end of fiscal quarter. I've got stuff that I need to do for as part of my job role, I'm taking repeated calls away from my desk. Now, granted, this is not something I ever do, and the senior team did know that, you know, it's either I do this or actually I take the rest of the week off as immediate holiday or unpaid to go and sort this out. So that's what I did. And then I'm getting phone calls from mum and dad going, we've looked at the car, and they're sending me through pictures on WhatsApp, and they're going, you know, it's X amount, and it does this and that. Dad's done a test drive, and I'm still catching public transport. A 20-minute car drive to work is taking me an hour and a half. My stress and anxiety levels are absolutely through the roof. I have been stress eating, and the byproduct of that is stress spending on food, because the two are linked in my mind. So yeah, personal budget is busted, food budget is kind of busted. Mum and I had planned to go on a holiday in September, which I'd started to save for. That will not be happening because Mum and Dad bought me a replacement car at £1,500. And Mum called me this morning to say it's paid for, it's all gone through. Now, I wasn't a bystander in this, you know, they were speaking to me about it and saying, you know, what are your thoughts? And the realities are is that all I had with my Corsa was 6 weeks of borrowed time. The problem would still be there in 6 weeks. Mum and Dad were prepared to. They were not prepared to take no for an answer, I would say. In terms of the financial aspect, borrowing from your parents doesn't really have an interest. You can agree a minimum that works for both parties. And it made me feel physically sick. The thought of going further into debt on a limited income, because the cold hard truth is I can't afford to go into debt because I can't afford debt minimum payments. And it took so much for me to become free of my consumer debt, and yes, I'll do a video on that, that I had literally done last week an annual budget summit and set out all my financial goals and all the things I wanted to do and how I could pay Mum and Dad back the £1,500 as quickly as possible, and could I do it in 6 months, bearing in mind that I probably only maybe have £200 a month to play with for savings and debt payments and stuff like that. And there are some quite essential sinking funds I need to put towards. We're only talking 3, but I can't get past them. Again, another video. And if I can find £250 a month spare, I can pay them back in 12 months. And I had wanted to try and generate a passive income of £400 a month before this had happened, because £400 a month I was looking at and going, do you know what, in 12 months that's a car saved and Mum and Dad paid back. £400 a month changes my life extra. It changes my financial life. To take home £1,649 a month means that, do you know what, that's my sinking funds. I don't have to worry about money. And things are tight on the income that I'm on. They're tighter because it is just me, and I have felt this week the lack of an emergency fund. I don't have one, and it's hurt, and it's stressed me out, and I'm still stressed. And today at work I sat there in my coat because I was shivering and shaking and hot and cold and feeling absolutely wrong, because the stress of the entire week has hit me, and everyone at work said, you look stressed, you look ill, you've had a really awful week. And I can't lie, I can't deny it, because last night I did a new budget summit and went, okay, what's the damage, you know, what can we do, what can I do, can I do a scorched earth budget, what can I cut? The added complication is that my car tax has gone up, my car insurance has come down, which has offset the car tax increase, but my petrol may go up, because I was driving a 1 litre engine, I am now driving a 1.4 engine. I knew I could absolutely guarantee that £40 would fill up my tank, and if I didn't have any other driving planned, then, you know, that was a budget pot where there would be change. I don't know if that's going to be enough. So I've had to increase and factor that in. The insurance, trying to sort that out, trying to sort out the scrapping of my old car because it's not doing that, trying to get that sorted, trying to liaise with mum and dad who have just been wonderful, absolutely wonderful, and I implicitly trust their judgment, and if at any stage of this they turned around and said we're not convinced by the car that we're looking at, I would have trusted them. I am now going back to Cambridgeshire again for this coming weekend. I just need a hug. I just need them to look after me. I just need to be a little girl who's maybe going to drink a bottle of wine with mum. I just need to sit there and go, do you know what, I've somehow survived this week, but oh my god, it's hard. Living on your own anywhere in the world is hard, but do you know what? Living on your own is in a small income, and I went into work thinking it doesn't matter how much I enjoy what I'm doing and I enjoy what I'm learning and I'm enjoying this career change, I can't afford to be here. I cannot afford to be doing this because an extra £1,500 of debt is too much. I don't have the budget for it. I don't have the space for it. If I want to get this paid off in a decent amount of time, and I still want it gone in 6 months, I don't have that. And at one point I was sat there looking at second jobs, and because of the tax system in the UK, I could only really look at a Saturday job, and by the time I've been taxed on both jobs, which is immediately deducted from my paycheck, I will be lucky if I walk away with £25-30. So it's not worth it, quite frankly. And then I was looking at delivery driver jobs, and then that's more wear and tear on the car, and I don't want to sound like I am work shy. The thing is, when I spent 8 years freelancing, I was doing 3 or 4 jobs very similar to that each time, and I was balancing them, and I am in a full-time job in a position, and I shouldn't have to. It should not be the case that it is that tight. And I'll have a clearer head about this, and I'm sure people are going to comment and go, stop whining, blah blah blah, but it's just been shocking. It's just been a really, really shocking week, and I've not really slept, and which doesn't help. And I've seen the weight go on, obviously, because I'm emotionally eating, and I haven't been able to get to the gym again because I haven't had my car this week, which I wanted to restart. So I've had to completely restructure and redo how I do my budget. Yeah, and it happened 2 days after I'd already paid out for some stuff. Because that's sod's law in the UK. That's what sod's law is. You do something and then something happens that you think, if only I hadn't got my hair cut and coloured, I'd be £80 better off. If only I hadn't spent £45 in IKEA. If only I hadn't gone and bought some fabric. All of these things that I'd planned to do with my little bonus pay, which probably don't even come to £200 altogether. But, if only my sister hadn't come up and we'd had a lovely time and we'd gone out and we'd enjoyed ourselves. Yeah. That's where we are. That's Murphy. That's Murphy getting into my house and my life and shaking up all of my foundations and my strength and my security and the inner confidence that I was trying to build and the self-belief that I was trying to build. Because all I've done all week is beat myself up over my poor money decisions. Because I don't have an emergency fund, and I don't have savings, and I don't have a plan, and I don't have car funds, and I'm now £1,500 more in debt. So I'm £3,000 in debt. Oh, and I also discovered that when that Vodafone thing that I mentioned, where they billed me twice, well, what they hadn't then also done was that bill did not include my iPad, which I thought it did, and yes, some of it is on me. However, when I did take out the plan, I said I need them to both be linked and coming out at the same time on the same account. They haven't been linked. For the past 2 months, the iPad has not been paid. So there is an outstanding bill of £60, which I don't have. However, because they are all under my name, even though I have paid my mobile phone, that's probably going to get cut off. Unless I ring and shout at someone. Maybe. And September last year was a really, really bad time for me with money. There was lots going on. Both my health, my mental health, my financial health. I thought that the annual direct debit for my prescription card, which means I pay a set amount each month and I can get as many prescriptions as possible on that. And I have 3, so it is cost effective. I thought that had come out. It hadn't. So I got sent one of those letters today saying, if you do not pay this by the 12th of August, which I can't, this will go to a debt collection agency. So there we are, we're back again. So, yeah. Murphy hit. These things come in 3s. 1, 2, 3. And financially, there is nothing I can do about it until 30th of August. So those things are just going to sit there. The most important thing is I get my car up and running and I can afford to run my car. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go to bed now because it's 20 to 11 and I have to be up in 6 hours and 10 minutes to catch the bus to get to work for 8 o'clock. Yeah, it's just been one of those moments. But I will catch up with you next time. Yeah, night.